I refused to pay for my stepdaughter's wedding. My wife passed away when my sons were 7 and 4, and for years it was just the three of us trying to figure out life without her. Then I met someone who understood loss. My new wife had been through her own divorce and had a 13-year-old daughter. We thought blending our families would give all our kids a fresh start. When we got married 12 years ago, my sons were 13 and 8, and my stepdaughter was also 13. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to be a good father figure to her. I wanted her to know she mattered just as much as my biological sons. From the very beginning, I tried everything to build a relationship with her. I'd wake up early to make her favorite breakfast, drive her to school every morning, even when it made me late for work. I never missed a single one of her dance recitals or school plays. When she wanted to join an expensive art program, I picked up weekend shifts to afford it. I paid for the nicest private school in our area because I wanted her to have every opportunity. Christmas and birthdays, I'd spend hours picking out gifts I thought she'd love. I helped her with homework, taught her to drive, stayed up late when she had projects due. I treated her exactly like my sons because in my heart she was my daughter too, but it was never enough. She'd open my gifts without a thank you. She'd ignore me at the dinner table. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give one-word answers and leave the room. My wife kept telling me to be patient, that she needed time to adjust, so I waited and waited. The breaking point came at her high school graduation. My eldest son had specifically invited my wife to his graduation the year before because she'd been part of his life and he loved her. I assumed my stepdaughter would do the same for me. She had 2 tickets to the ceremony. She invited her mother and her grandmother. When I asked why I wasn't invited, she didn't even hesitate. She looked at me with complete indifference and said, "You're not my dad. You didn't raise me, and I don't want you in my life." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. 12 years of trying, of loving her, of treating her like my own, and that's what I got. My wife tried to smooth it over, said she was just being a moody teenager, but those words stuck with me. Still, I didn't give up. I paid for her entire college education, just like I did for my sons. 4 years of tuition, room and board, textbooks, everything. I figured maybe one day she'd understand that I genuinely cared about her future. A few months ago, my wife came home excited and told me our daughter was engaged. I went out and bought a cake, balloons, champagne, the whole celebration setup. I invited my sons over so we could all celebrate together as a family. Then my stepdaughter called and said she changed her mind about coming home. Instead, she wanted my wife to come to her apartment to celebrate, just the two of them. No me, no my sons. When my wife told me, she tried to act like it was no big deal, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes too. I was devastated, but I still called to congratulate her. The conversation lasted maybe 2 minutes. She gave short answers, and I could hear her boyfriend in the background asking who she was talking to. She said, "Just my mom's husband," and quickly ended the call. I held on to one last hope. Maybe she'd let me walk her down the aisle, or at least have a father-daughter dance at the reception. When my wife carefully brought it up, my stepdaughter shut it down immediately. She said her uncle would be walking her down the aisle, and there would be no father-daughter dance because I wasn't her father. That hurt more than I can explain, but I accepted it. Then last week, my wife sat me down and said she needed to talk about money. The wedding was going to cost around $40,000, and my stepdaughter expected us to pay for it, or rather, expected me to pay for it since my wife doesn't work. I sat there thinking about everything. 12 years of rejection. 12 years of being told I wasn't her father. 12 years of trying to love someone who couldn't stand me. And now she wanted me to write a check for $40,000? I told my wife no. I said I wouldn't be paying for the wedding. I told her she had some money saved up in her personal account, and if she wanted to contribute, that was her choice. But I was done being an ATM for someone who refused to acknowledge my existence. My wife was furious. She said I was being petty and cruel, that this was her only daughter's wedding and I was ruining it. She said she barely had $8,000 saved, and that wasn't nearly enough. Within hours, my phone was blowing up. My wife's mother, her sisters, her brother, all calling me selfish and heartless. They said I was punishing my stepdaughter for being a hurt kid. My wife has been sleeping in the guest room for a week now. But here's what I keep coming back to. If I'm not her father, then I don't have a father's obligation to pay for her wedding. You can't have it both ways. You can't reject someone for over a decade and then expect them to fund your life. My sons have both told me privately that they support my decision, but my wife's family has made this into a war, and honestly, I don't know if my marriage will survive it.